Hello and welcome to another live edition of Royal Reviewer, and today's video is going to be a little bit different. I'm taking a little bit of a different direction with this video. We are going to delve into royal history. Now, I've seen a lot of videos around there, or I've seen quite a lot of posts actually on social media where lots of people like to do a on this day in whatever it might be with regards to whatever subject. And I thought, what about doing a new segment for this channel about royal history? So, on this day in royal history is the name of this live chat segment. Now, I could have done a recorded video, but as you know, I like doing my live chats for some reason, just sitting down and talking in front of a camera without there being you guys there, without you being there, is kind of not my thing. I don't like doing them. I like doing live chats. Live chats is my thing. So I can see people dropping in now. This is a live chat. I need to go and find the live chat room so that I can carry on and commence with this chat. So if you like Elizabeth I, she is the topic of this video. On this day, in royal history, in 1603, was the very, very sad occasion for England when Elizabeth I passed away. So we're going to be talking about the days leading up to and including today. Right, I can see people dropping in. Hello to everyone. If you can see the people in the chat room with the names in green, they are channel members. So hello to you, channel members. Canetta, Kathy, H.A. Bracken, Sharon, Helene's Home, Christine, Beth Ann. I can see you all. So yeah, let's just have some fun with this video. Let me know at the end of this video, of course, if you've enjoyed it by giving it a big old thumbs up, and also leave a comment as well. Oh, Sharona, we're on lockdown here in the UK. I cannot go to a PO box address. I did go last week and there wasn't anything. So if you've sent something, I'm afraid it's going to have to wait until our restrictions have been lifted. I'm sure you guys will have your own wherever you are in the world. Oh, thank you, Barbara. I am wearing the Queen's star brooch today. And also my Princess Diana ring. But there is a point for me wearing this ring, which we'll get to in a moment. Maria says Elizabeth I, one of major names of world history and the greatest of England. Indeed, one of my favourite royal monarchs. As you know, so I've mentioned it before. I think I had a question one time saying, who is your favourite monarch? And I said, alive or dead? And I would say my favourite, alive famous person is probably Queen Elizabeth II. And my favourite one that has passed is Queen Elizabeth I. If ever I could go back in time and meet a monarch, I would love to go back and meet Elizabeth I. By the way, in case you haven't noticed, I am wearing my Elizabeth I t-shirt. I love this t-shirt. It's really, really good. So I thought I would wear this one today, just in case you were wondering what the t-shirt was. And hello and welcome to everyone dropping in. I can see Joanne, Christina, all channel members. Yes, she was one of the first original strong independent women that didn't need no man. She didn't need no man. She did not need no man, ma'am. If she wanted a shelf putting up, she could do it herself. No, seriously, she was a strong, independent woman, and she didn't need anyone else. She could do it all herself. Right, I think we have enough people in the room to begin. I have made some notes, so let's begin. On this day in royal history, let's go back. Let's go way, way back in time to the Tudor era. It's the 24th of March, 1603, and it is the day, it actually happened at round about 3 a.m. in the morning of, it was actually a Thursday, it was Thursday, March the 24th, 1603, and Queen Elizabeth did pass away in her sleep. She had fallen into a very, very deep sleep. And I'm going to read a little bit about the days precluding to the 24th. She was exhausted, and basically she fell into the last of her sleeps, a very, very deep sleep, and passed away. And we'll also talk a little bit about what happened immediately after she was discovered to have passed away. Let's just see what people... Oh, the witching hour. Yes. Yes. Oh, my goodness, yes. What tiara am I wearing today? I'm just wearing kind of like a medieval fleur-de-lis coronet with diamonds. It's not a royal replica, but I just thought I would wear that. How old was she when she died? She was 69. So that's actually a really good age in the Tudor period. In today's age, I would still say that's, relatively young. Lots of people are living now. Life expectancy now in modern era with when you think about the Tudor period, they did not have the medications, the vaccines that we have today. They didn't have, the dental care. They didn't have they had plagues, they had disease. I know we have diseases now, but at least, we have methods and ways and means of trying to combat them. Back then, they didn't. Plague was rampant. People passed away. Childbirth, pregnancies didn't always go through. And, children often died in infancy, which is why they had such big families. So 69 in the Tudor age was actually a very, very, very good age. I will skip a little bit to kind of what she died of. Now, I think a lot of people, think that she died. A lot of people, when you ask how she died, people think to the white makeup that was on her face. Now, we all know, well, maybe you don't know, but that white makeup, her famous white complexion, was a foundation that was made out of lead. Part of its base was actually lead, and some people have surmised that perhaps her death could have been attributed to a form of lead poisoning. Now, we don't know if that's actually true. There was not an autopsy done at the time. And of course, even if there had have been an autopsy done at the time, it wouldn't have been like a modern day autopsy where they would have had a toxicology report and all the rest of it. So we kind of don't know, but a lot of people think it was lead poisoning. It could also have been a bronchial chest infection, but then again, that could have been brought on, perhaps by a poisoning or something of that nature. Pneumonia could have been another, actual cause of death, but again, that could have been induced by other things. So yeah, we don't actually know entirely what it was. I mean, organ failure as well could have been an issue. Let's just see what people are saying. Yes, Mary the First was Queen Elizabeth's sister. And yes, Rachel, I've just seen, they didn't have the sanitation as well, so disease and plague was all rife. Ernst says, you scared me. I thought you were talking about Elizabeth II. No. Our Elizabeth, our Queen Elizabeth is fine. She's fine. She is safely concealed away with a skeletal staff at Windsor. And if you tune into my royal chat that I'm going to do later on in the evening tonight, I will talk about how the royal family is coping with what's going on in the world right now. So no, not our present queen. Definitely not our present queen. Yeah, Joanne, rest in peace, old age for Elizabeth I. Elizabeth I, she reached a really good ripe old age of 69. Right, I think I should move on a little bit because, then again, this is a live chat. This is a chat directed by you guys. I have some simple notes, but I will go wherever you want to go with this chat. I'm glancing at comments and reading them as I go. So, just in case you didn't know, Elizabeth I was the daughter of Henry VIII and Anne Boleyn. Now, Anne Boleyn was from Henry's second marriage. He actually got his marriage to Catherine of Aragon annulled. So, Elizabeth had an older sister, Mary I, who became Mary I, and Elizabeth was the second child of she was the first child of Henry and Anne, but Henry's second child and second daughter in terms of his children. So Elizabeth, Anne and Henry's marriage was legitimised, and obviously Catherine's was annulled, and around about that time Henry divorced from the Church of Rome, all for love, and of course Elizabeth was the product of that love. She actually died in Richmond Palace, as I said, at the age of 69. She ruled for 44 years. Now, back then, I mean, even now, that is a long time in terms of a reign. So she had a really, really good reign. And it was 44 years and 127 days to be precise. We've all heard of the Golden Age, Gloriana, the Virgin Queen, Good Queen Bess. Those were all monikers that she was given because of, I think, the success of her reign. Lots of amazing, really good things happened. She fought off the Spanish Armada. Education, literacy in Britain grew under her. There was a calm in terms of religious settlement. Although the country came back to being a Protestant country under Elizabeth, Mary had returned Britain back to Catholicism. But under Elizabeth, she remained neutral. She returned it to a Protestant country, but she remained neutral. She did not want to make windows into men's souls, as she said. She kind of turned a blind eye to people practicing Catholicism. If they were doing it openly, I mean, things might happen. She might have issue with that, but she did not, she turned a blind eye to what people were doing behind closed doors. As long as they outwardly conformed to Protestantism, she was okay with that. So, England enjoyed a period of religious calm after a period of religious turmoil and, executions and all that went on under Mary's rule. So there was a lot of good things that happened in Elizabeth. Oh, and also exploration as well. Sir Walter Raleigh, she championed exploration, and also it was at peacetime. There were no major wars under Elizabeth. She also played the marriage game superbly, and she remained single. Hello to everyone who is dropping in. Sharon says, oh no, I'm talking about a different Mary. You're talking about Mary, Queen of Scots. She's the one who got beheaded. She was Elizabeth's cousin, and James VI of Scotland's, the first of England's mother. I'm talking about Mary Tudor, her sister, who was a daughter of Henry VIII. It does get confusing. I understand where you're coming from. It does get confusing. There were so many Catherines, Marys, Elizabeths, lots of kind of the same kind of names repeating themselves over and over again. So I can understand how you would get confused by that. As I said, she's probably one of the world's most famous monarchs out there. Her image still survives today, being printed on T-shirts so that people like me can buy them. When you often think of a Queen of England or you think of the Tudor period, you might think of Henry VIII. But another monarch that springs to mind instantly is Elizabeth I. Her image is instantly recognisable. It was carefully curated by Elizabeth. I think she actually had kind of one sample portrait made that was reproduced. She actually gave this kind of image of her face to different artists to reproduce throughout her reign, which is why we don't really have necessarily a true representation of what Elizabeth looked like in older age. There is, I think, one old age portrait of her, but we don't know exactly how lifelike that was. But certainly the other ones, she remained looking so youthful in her portraits because there was one kind of model face that was passed around to be reproduced. And of course, imagery was so important to Elizabeth. She did not like aging. She masked her pockmarked complexion with this lead-based white powder. This kind of, I suppose you'd call it a foundation in today's makeup terminology. But she was vain. She did carefully curate her image. She wanted to appear youthful, virginal, still marriageable, very, very late into her age. and she was a master statesperson going on. Right, I'm going to carry on because I keep getting sidetracked about Elizabeth I. She is one of my favourite monarchs, as I said before. So on the 14th of January 1603, she returned from Whitehall Palace to Richmond. Now she actually really liked Richmond. She referred to Richmond as the best place to trust her in her old age. So she knew she was getting older. I think she probably sensed that she was coming to the end of her life. At this point, she was suffering from a cold. She was also likely to be feeling depression. She'd had, a tumultuous couple of years with the execution of her favourite, the Earl of Essex, Robert Devereux, in 1601. Also, William Cecil, Lord Burleigh, passed away in 1598. Now, he was one of, I suppose you could almost say, her closest friends, as far as Elizabeth got to having a friend. She trusted him implicitly, and when he passed away, that would have been a huge wrench to Elizabeth, and of course other people as well. As you get a little bit like the present Queen, lots of her ladies and people that her contemporaries, are passing away now. So Elizabeth must have felt a period of grief, of reflection, of great sadness, that she was kind of outliving many of her contemporaries. And also, she'd lost one of her very, very closest friends as well, female friends, Catherine Howard, the Countess of Nottingham, in February of 1603, so very, very close in time. On the 21st of March, she actually refused to go to bed, but eventually she gave in to her ladies, and she lay on a series of cushions, where she still carried on the state business, very, very much as the Queen does now with her red boxes. Elizabeth I carried on. She was still at this point of sound mind because she was carrying out the affairs of state. On Wednesday, the 23rd of March, she grew speechless, and her life was drawing to a close. Now, at this point, she summoned her council, and Sir Robert Carey, the Earl of Monmouth, was present, and she was asked about the succession. Now, the succession was an issue that Elizabeth had become pathologically immune to. She did not want to hear about the succession, mainly because it was so dangerous. It was so dangerous to talk about who was going to succeed you in those times when you had no heir, because it placed you in a very, very vulnerable position. It could cause factions, it could cause rebellions, especially if you're perceived as your reign coming to an end. So it wasn't until the very, very last moment almost that Elizabeth kind of indicated who she would want to succeed her. I think many of her contemporaries had taken it that she wanted James VI of Scotland, who was Mary Queen of Scots' son, to become her successor, to become king after she passed away. Now, she actually did this by raising her hand. She touched her head, that she wanted, or rather it was taken that because she was speechless at this point, it was taken that this signal was an indication that she wished James VI of Scotland to succeed her in the line of succession, which of course would unite the kingdoms of Scotland and England for the first time. So this was quite a monumental thing for Elizabeth to indicate. Now, eventually Archbishop Whitgift was called at 6 p.m. and I have a quote to read about this. So let me just find that. I will take some comments as well. Right. So Whitgift, an account at the time said, Her Majesty lay upon her back with one hand in the bed and the other without. The Archbishop kneeled down beside her and examined her first of her faith and she so punctually answered all his questions by lifting up her eyes and holding up her hand, as it was a comfort to all the beholders. Then the good man told her plainly what she was, and what she was to come. Though she had been long a great queen here upon earth, yet shortly she was to yield an account of her stewardship to the King of Kings. After this he began to pray, and all that were by did answer him. Now Whitgift remained at her bedside, holding her hand and offering her spiritual comfort until his knees ached. But as he made to rise, Elizabeth actually gestured for him to stay. So he stayed for a further 30 minutes. Around 10 o'clock that evening, with heavy rain pattering against the windows, Elizabeth finally turned her face to the wall and fell into her final deep sleep. Dr. Parry, who was the attending doctor, the Queen's physician, sent prayers before her soul. Now, she would never ever wake. Now, Lady Warwick and Lady Scrope was by her side at the time, and they said, mildly like a lamb, easily like a ripe apple from a tree, she passed. Shortly before 3 o'clock in the morning on Thursday, the 24th of March, and there we go, Elizabeth had passed. Let me just go and see what people are saying. How old was Elizabeth when she died? I said this before, but she was 69. She was 69 years old. Right, I am now going to talk a little bit about what happened after her passing. So, immediately after her passing, Lady Scrope actually took her sapphire ring. Now, this is why I'm wearing the Princess Diana ring. This is not the same ring that Elizabeth had on her finger, but she would have worn a sapphire ring, and it was actually given to her as a present by James VI. And it was indicated to him prior to her passing that he would know that she had truly passed and that he was truly the King of England when he received her ring. So the ring was removed from Elizabeth's dead finger by Lady Scrope, and it was passed through the window to her brother, Robert Carey, who set off on horseback on a 3-day ride to Scotland. He took the ring to James VI of Scotland, and he passed it to James. When James got the ring, he knew that Elizabeth had passed and that he was king, therefore uniting the kingdoms of Scotland and England. He became James I of England at that point. So there we go, all in a ring. I should also say that Elizabeth's coronation ring, her fingers had swollen up during her illness, and they actually, that ring had to be sawn off, and that was taken as a monumental sign, almost like she was divorcing herself from England, because she so famously declared before everyone that she was married to the Kingdom of England, therefore she could not marry any suitor. And let's just talk a little bit about her funeral as well. So she was actually interred, first of all, in Westminster Abbey, in the tomb of Henry VII. But she was moved in 1606 to the tomb to the Lady Chapel, and that was also in Westminster Abbey, but she shares it with Mary I, her sister. There is a plaque inscribing this, but there's also the effigy of Elizabeth I on the top. So unless you actually read the inscription, you probably wouldn't be aware that Mary was in the tomb. But she's in there with Elizabeth, and it was obviously James that had her moved. Mary says, thanks for reading. Thank you so much for watching. Leanne says, I love this history. Thank you. Julie says, you make history lively and interesting. I do try. I'm trying. It's a new segment. It's a new foray into, on this day in royal history. Mary says, what was the cause of the death? I did talk about that a little bit at length earlier in the video. So if you've just joined this video part way through, I do recommend going back and watching the full video. Joanne says, loving this history. I love history too, and I'm glad you guys do as well. And of course, in this time with everything what's going on in the world, I think we need a little bit of escapism. And although this story isn't a particularly joyous one, we're talking about the passing of a monarch, but it is also about the celebration of a life, because as I mentioned earlier in the video, lots of really great things happened under Elizabeth's rule here in Britain. Things that we are still feeling the effects of today. So a little bit of escapism in the current climate of what's going on, I think is really, really needed by everybody. Hello to Elizabeth Regina, who's just joined. Right. Skeptical says, a great novel on Elizabeth I is Elizabeth by Rosalind Miles. There are many. I have read many, many, many books over the years on Elizabeth I. Many of them are really, really good. I also like the picture books as well. Beth Ann says, this is fabulous. Please continue the historical chats. Yeah, if you want to see more of On This Day in Royal History, give the video a thumbs up and leave a comment and tell me the sorts of history topics that you are interested in, and I can turn them into live chats. I think I prefer doing the live chats rather than literally sitting down and doing a pre-recorded video. I like talking to you guys. Right, I'm going to go now. I want to keep this video fairly topic specific, so I'm going to go now. I probably will come back later on tonight and do a chat about what's going on in the royal family of today. So if you've enjoyed this video, please give it a big old thumbs up. Don't forget to share on social media, and also do hit the bell so that you know whenever I upload a new video. So from me in Shropshire, mwah, to you all, and goodbye.